Thank you very much. That was a very long intro. They've found everything they could about me on the internet, and Donovan read it out. So, really good to be here. Hello to everybody online. Please don't go and make yourself a cup of tea. This is not that slot. Secondly, for those of you who want to kind of look down and start replying to WhatsApp messages, because I'm not an entrepreneur. This talk is not for me. This talk is exactly for you. And if you're sitting next to members of your team and you kind of want to close their ears and say, no, please don't become an entrepreneur because I need you to work for me. This is also for you. My talk to you today is that we live in a broken system where we live unfulfilled lives, things don't run as well as they should, and we need to embrace our inner entrepreneur today more than ever before. So besides the myriad of things that Donovan said about me coming up here, the thing that I think makes me an authority to speak today about finding your inner entrepreneur is the fact that my entrepreneurial story started like this. I was a student at the University of Cape Town, the first of a generation to be able to go to university, be there, you get to your first year, and do well, and then, boom, I don't have money to pay back my student fees. And so what did I do? I had to conjure up things, find jobs, and I started a business some 17, 18 years ago, which then spurned a bunch of other businesses that have kind of taken me all over the world. And so those early pictures, I didn't even own a car at the time. We romantically said were crafted on the trains and rehearsed on the streets as I would take the train and walk to my first clients as we kind of were starting this business. And so my vision for the next 10 minutes, I promise, is for you to locate yourself within this talk, to find a sense of self-reflection to say, is there an inner entrepreneur within me? Is there something unrequited within me that I would love to share with the world? Is it scratching with you in there? Now, what I'm not asking you to be is to become an entrepreneur. To the contrary, I'm asking you to embrace some of the amazing lessons we can learn from entrepreneurial thinking. Because people always come to me and they say, Shukri, I have a business idea, this is what I want to do, and I'm actually not an advocate for everybody to become an entrepreneur. I'm not. I am an advocate for everybody thinking more like entrepreneurs, right? And so when I say the system is broken, we know that in a South African context, we have the highest level of unemployment that we have ever had. The gap between the rich and the poor is the worst in the world. And even if you're sitting here today or watching from your office at home and you feel safe, you're not. You could lose your job tomorrow. And for the people that do have jobs, I think I speak for everyone when I say that we all are in an environment where our cost of living, not this lady, but everybody else's cost of living is going up. And we need to think differently about ourselves and how we think about our vocation and what we do. And then lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we have a mental health epidemic at the moment. People are deeply, deeply, deeply unhappy. And like Rowana said that creativity can change the world, I truly believe that embracing your inner entrepreneur can change the world, and I'll tell you how, right? So firstly, let's have a look. Who of you have been a child before? Hands up. So my point is, being an entrepreneur is a deeply innate thing. It is something that we were all blessed with. When we look at our own children, when we think back at our parents looking at us, did our parents love us, feed us, send us to good schools, give them the best that they could so that you go into an environment that you're unhappy about, so that you're like sitting in this rat race and kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, like I wish like it would be the end of the day. No. It's a deeply inherent human quality to be able to say, I am the founder of my life. I am the creator of what I'm working on. And I have the opportunity to impose my will and dent this universe in the way that I want to, right? And so, what can we learn from being entrepreneurial? Well, firstly, entrepreneurs are grit. They have grit. They have flexibility. And they take risks. Now, Luca spoke about a founder, Dan Wyden, of speaking about the edge of chaos. I'm going to tell you a quick, really cute story about that for me demonstrates the edge of chaos. And that is a MotoGP rider, Valentino Rossi. Yeah? Okay. We have Brad Binder is a South African rider who rides MotoGP as well. So if Valentino Rossi rides his motorbike in an upright position and takes no risk and just rides his bike around the track, he might get there in one piece, but he will never do the times required to win a world championship, right? So what does Valentino Rossi have to do? He has to get onto his bike and go as fast as he possibly can to try to extract every split second that he can out of that track. And he's in a corner or in this corner to the point where his leg or his knee is actually scraping on the ground. Have you seen that? So Valentino Rossi is at the edge of chaos. And here's the part that I think is entrepreneurial about it. He is at the edge of chaos, and sometimes it goes wrong, and he clips his leg. And what does he do? He's learned the art of being able to push his bike away and slide backwards through the rubble and stand up, dust himself off, have some really uncomfortable showers with all his scratches and things that he'll have, but come back at the next race with a new bike to put in those times to become the world champion. Yeah? And so for me, that is what we can learn about embracing our entrepreneurial self, as well as embracing our founder mentality in what we do. So how does this pertain to marketing? What can we do when you say, I'm not asking everybody to start their own business? How does entrepreneurial thinking relate to marketing? And so the first is, very often marketers, agencies, we are so far removed from having a business mindset around what's happening. We become so intertwined with the creative, and I like this color, and that's the wrong shade of green, and I've spent 3 days on my pitch deck, so you should listen to it. No, I shouldn't. I don't care about your pitch deck, unless it actually is purpose-driven and is driving us forward, right? David Ogilvy famously said, if it doesn't sell, it's not creative. And so, you know, when you go into a store or you go into a business, you can see who the owner is. They have an owner energy. They're watching you. They're making sure that things are efficient. They're saying, are you okay? Let me know if I can help you. You know that. And you also know that sometimes we can go into a store and we see people who can act and have an owner energy. And they can stand there and they can say, can I help you? Can I be there? And there's just a certain, that intangible feeling about why you like doing business with that company, as opposed to people who are super disconnected from that larger business idea. So we know we live in a time in marketing where we can measure everything, where we can have a full seat at the table as marketers and say, we have a business role to play, we can measure what we do, but we need to make sure that we put ourselves at the center of that. So I was speaking to Donovan backstage, and he does a multitude of things. He has what they call it being a T person. Do you guys know what a T person is? Having one deep skill, but then having one deep vertical skill. He's a funny guy. He can do all kinds of things. And then find ways to have a bunch of horizontal skills along that. And one of those horizontal skills needs to be entrepreneurial. How we think and connect to who we truly are internally. The other thing which I'll say to anybody that's trying to find talent in the marketing industry at the moment is, where has all the talent gone? Right? They're all working from the beach. And so what I'd say is we've got to be thinking quite differently about having flexible resourcing models. And that's if you're a brand, if you're an agency, you've got to think about it differently. And so as an employer, you've got to say, well, I've got to let Sarah work from the beach sometimes. But then conversely, to Sarah, would you be happy if you were the employer and your whole team worked from the beach every day, right? There's a reciprocal kind of respect around having some flexibility within that. And so for me, whether you are the founder, the manager, the leader, or you're someone who's on the way up, I think thinking and putting yourself in the mindset of as an entrepreneur, for me, is the most crucial part of what needs to happen. The last part, which I'll say, is we don't have to all be entrepreneurs, but we need to contribute to an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And how can we do that? Don't pay people over 90 days. If you're not going to work with people, tell them, I'm not going to work with you. Don't ask them to give you a revert and revert and revert when you have no intention to work with them. That's contributing to an entrepreneurial ecosystem. A well-timed no is as good and as powerful as a yes. That's being entrepreneurial. So as you sit here and you say, well, I don't have to embrace my inner entrepreneur because I'm at this point in my... Wrong. It's our inability to embrace our inner entrepreneur, in my opinion, which is why things don't work, which is why the lights aren't on, which is why people take long to fix roads. We also need to make sure that we are beneficiating the people sitting in this room and thinking about where we spend our money. So you may find that there's a global company or there's a global team that you want to work with. Make sure that they are empowering and helping other people and sending that elevator back down. Make sure of it. Absolutely make it an imperative. And then in closing, and this is my part about saying that it's actually a matter of life or death of whether you embrace your inner entrepreneur. Because if we can think of ourselves and put our own lives at the center of what we do, we can start to self-regulate the choices that we make. Make sure that we invest in ourselves. Make sure that we do things that can allow us to move out of a stress and survival mode. When we are unhappy, when we're worried about whether we can actually pay the bills, we are in protection mode. And when we're in protection mode, which we've been for quite a while now because of COVID, we become selfish, right? Who here, if you're in this reptilian kind of prefrontal cortex part of your life where you're just doing things to stay alive, can think about making things better for other people? And so T.E. Lawrence famously said, and I'm adapting the men to people because it's 2023, he said, all people dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind awake to find it was vanity. But those who dream in the day are dangerous people, for they may act on those dreams and make it a reality. What I'm saying to you in closing is that your personal happiness, you building up the entrepreneurial skills to learn, to live a life of abundance, love, and joy, when you do that, you have so much more to give everyone else. When we move ourselves away from being my boss should be doing this, I have to do this, and put yourself at the center of that, we have the opportunity to live with unbridled love, joy, and abundance, and to be able to make this world a better place. Thank you.